everyone, and welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Toffer. Thanks for listening. You know, my wife Vicki and I have owned and operated our photography studio, V Gallery, for 20 years now. White House has been our lab for the last 16 of those years, and we could not be happier. White House is a family-run business, just like ours. If you haven't already, check them out at whcc.com. And if you want to drop me a line, feel free to email me at jed@whcc.com. I'll never forget it. There we were in a huge warehouse studio filled with photographers from all over the country, most of whom we knew, or at least knew of, because they were essentially famous within our industry. We were in an invite-only gathering in northern Wisconsin. It was late 2004 or 2005, I think. I remember being constantly anxious. That was pretty much my default state during those years. Life was moving really fast, and big things were happening all around me. We gave a 30-minute presentation to our fellow industry creative entrepreneurs and listened while they gave theirs as well. And I can't remember what we talked about, or what any of those others talked about either, except for one guy. Kevin Jordan unassumingly stood up in front of everyone. Almost nobody there, except our gracious hosts, Dave Junion and Sandy Putch, knew who he was. And he absolutely killed it. And he just told his story. He just talked about what he did and how he completely transformed his business almost overnight by simply learning from people he looked up to and actually implementing what he learned. It's just one of those moments that you don't forget. That's the day I met Kevin, and we've been friends ever since. These days, and for the past several years actually, it's Kevin that's doing the teaching. Take these words to heart. Kevin's a living testimony to what can happen when you practice what you hear preached. I would like to talk about, the stigmas and stereotypes that you face and have faced, because I think you have, right?
Sure.
And I think you embody kind of the antithesis of that with the business that you've created and the things that you've implemented and been very successful with, right, in doing. Because I don't think a lot of people in this industry would look at you, and I mean this in all sincerity, would look at you and think to themselves right away, oh, that dude is a baller and has these huge sales, right? Have you experienced that?
Yeah. I think that
that they're surprised when they find out is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And I say that because I've heard them be surprised. I've seen them be surprised, right? I remember the first time I met you was at a Dave Junion and Sandy Putch barbecue. I think this was the first time I met you or I saw you, because one of them brought you or invited you, right?
That's right. Yep.
It was in like 2004 or 2005. I don't know. It was a long time ago. And I remember you got up. You're just this really unassuming, laid back, chilled out dude. And you got up and gave your presentation. We all had to give like a 30-minute presentation or whatever. And you got up there and you were saying things, and there were some ballers in that room. Like I remember Jeff Lubin was in that room, if I remember correctly. And you start rattling off some numbers just like offhandedly, right? Like you're like, oh, this is what I do, and this is how we do it, and everyone's mouth is like on the floor. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. You know, the thing about that was weird for me. I was so nervous. Everybody in that place was, man, they were all speakers and people that I've been to every one of their classes and studied and learned. And I knew the stuff that I was going to say was everything that they already knew this stuff. I was learning it from them, you know. So
right.
As I was up there talking about it, I was just thinking, well, they already know this, but I'm going to just tell them what I do. And
but didn't you experience them as being surprised? And haven't you experienced that a lot?
Quite a bit, yeah. And some talked to me after, and they were saying that, you know, we know these things, but it's not often that it's all put together. And for me, it was just very comfortable because it was what I was used to. You know?
Yeah. So it wasn't a big deal to you, obviously, from your perspective.
No, I felt like the little guy there. You know, I felt like I was, you know, all these. I didn't know these guys.
Right.
You know, I've gotten to know them all over the years.
Sure, you have now.
Friends with many of them.
Yeah.
But you have this idea when you're sitting in the audience and learning that this person's perfect and they've got it all together, and
Right.
And I'll never be like that, but I'm surely going to try. But you do, you have to have the idea that if they can do it, I can do it too.
Right.
Or you won't.
And you had that.
Yeah.
And so, do you think do you think it's weird on one hand that here are all these people that they go out and they teach, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these speakers, all these teachers, all these educators, they go out and they teach. And then when a person that has actually listened to what they said and implemented all the different things that they espouse, and you come up and you say, yeah, I do this and I do that. And it's nothing that it's not like anything new under the sun to them, so to speak, but it's actually implementing all the things that they stand for. They shouldn't be surprised, should they?
No, I don't think so.
Here's a dude that did it.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is when you go to listen to a class, you're listening to a specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you're trying to get the best of what they have to offer. And maybe you get that, but you go to several of those and start putting all of those pieces together, and then you create your own thing. And I believe that, with people, without them knowing you and what you're doing, and we run into it all the time, we'll see people that we don't know that they're having a successful business, or that we don't know anything about them until we get to talking to them, and then we find out, wow, that's pretty incredible what you're doing.
Right.
But
that's what happened.
Yeah, but it's actually more of putting the pieces together and creating your own way. Yeah.
Why were you able to? Because so all these people that go to all these things, and now there's all kinds of different ways to learn on the internet and whatnot. But why were you successful? Because if there's 100,000 people that have access to all this information and have learned all this stuff over the years, why were you able to pull it off and actually do it?
Well, I would say that it was a combination of desperation and determination,
Wow, desperation.
Yeah, because when I started that path of learning from these guys, it was about 3 years into my career.
Yeah.
And I had done what I thought was pretty well with it. I had a lot of clients. My business model wasn't very good. I did kind of everything wrong,
Yeah.
Which a lot of us do
that
when we start.
familiar.
Yeah, when you're starting out, you do whatever you can, and you try to get more business, even if it's bad. But anyway, long story short, I was facing bankruptcy 3 years into it. I had I'd gone about 6 months without making a house payment.
Yeah.
They came and got my car.
Really?
Yeah. I called them up and said, come get it, because I couldn't.
Because you couldn't pay for it.
I couldn't pay for it.
So you said, come and take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was in that situation, and I had sat across from the bankruptcy attorney, and he said, here are your options. You can wipe all this clean and start over.
Yeah.
7 years from now, you'll be back on track.
Right.
Or you can figure something else out. And so I knew there were people out there doing really well with it. And if it could be done, I'd always heard about these guys that were making big sales.
Right.
But I just didn't understand it. So I ordered a stack of credit cards. Back then you could. You just get online and they would show up, man. And then I would take those and, just run them through the gas stations and drive to all these events and pay for everything on credit cards.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you were like, I'm going to take a shot.
Yeah.
Is that essentially what it was? Like, here you were, your back was up against the wall. You kind of had one last chance to either make it happen or do the 7-year start over piece. And you decided, I'm going to give it a shot.
Right. And I had nothing to lose, And
because you didn't have anything to lose. Okay. So I get the desperation piece essentially, right?
Yeah. And so I did believe in it. I did have faith in it. I knew it could be done.
Right.
Our area is a very poor area, but...
Well, you're not selling the I did believe it piece. I did believe it, and yet we're in very poor areas. Why did you believe it?
Well, I just knew that we're all using the same tools. It's just a camera.
Yeah.
And it's photographs. And there are some people that have learned to do it a different way than what I've ever done, coming up as a third-generation photographer. I've always seen it.
Well, that's a big piece that you're a third-generation photographer, too.
Yeah, and each one of us had our separate businesses, but, you take a piece from what they did and you try to do it, whether it was done well or not. But yeah, I thought that that I would go around, and I really did believe that I could do it, that it was doable. I didn't want to go back to computer science stuff. That's what I used to do.
That's what you were doing.
Yeah.
For.
Yeah, and I really wanted to have my own business, so I just decided to take somewhat of a stand, like you say, and go out there. And I went to everybody that I could. Lubin, studied under him.
Yeah.
Tim Kelly. I bet I've been to 10 of his classes.
Yeah.
Tim Walden.
Yep.
Charles Lewis.
Yeah.
All the guys that were doing. I was looking for a model because I knew I wouldn't have a lot of people. I needed a model that would handle low volume, higher sales.
Right.
And so I just went and studied everybody that was doing that.
Yeah. Right.
Doing that.
And so you're so at the time you're using these credit cards to essentially finance your trips and finance, putting everything on these cards. You had to get to a point where it was like, well, now I got to pay off these cards, right?
Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, in my mind, it would seem to me like you put yourself under that much more pressure that you said earlier, you were determined too. So you were desperate, but you're also determined. The determined piece to me seemed to be absolutely necessary in order to pay off the cards, really, in such, because you don't have a long time, and that interest just grows and grows and grows unless you pay it off.
Right.
And so how were you able to make that happen in a relatively short amount of time, given where you were at?
Well, I knew that. Okay, so I had two choices here. All those cards could have gone into bankruptcy had I failed. So there was just a slight safety net in that.
Yes, right.
But I also knew, I had watched The Secret at the time, and I was getting all fired up.
The Secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a big book that Oprah promoted, and it was all about, if you kind of call it into existence, so to speak?
Law of attraction.
Law of attraction, right. Okay.
Right. And it basically is positive thinking. And
positive thinking.
And, that's something I think that I'm geared toward, but I was starting to study it a lot more, and I really believe that, hey, I can do anything. I need to get that plan in place and then work the plan. And so I knew that I was going to pay those cards off, and I really didn't give myself the option to go bankrupt. I didn't want to do that. And mainly because I wanted to keep doing what I was doing, because I love it, and I wanted to work for myself and spend this time with my family and have all this free time to do cool things.
Flexibility at the very least.
Right.
So did you essentially start learning these systems from these people that were doing what you wanted to do and then just implement it like right away?
I did. I really did. I would say over a 6-month period, I went to everything that I could go to, took notes, retrained myself, repositioned my company, and a lot of it was terminology.
So you did like a whole rebrand, like over the course of those months. So I mean, for 3 years, your business looks a certain way,
right?
And then in a short period of time, you go from looking a certain way to rebranding and being now this high-end studio that's asking really high prices,
right?
Essentially,
right? Yeah.
How did you make it work?
Well, it was a mindset. Essentially, what I did was I decided that I was going to open a new company under the same roof.
Okay.
Which we know it's the same company with the same tools.
Right.
But it's
on the back end.
Right.
Right.
But just like a restaurant, I guess, deciding to go from low end to high end, there's some things that need to be changed.
Yeah, they don't necessarily wipe out the kitchen and put in all new, ovens and everything else.
Right.
They might bring in a new staff or they might bring in a new chef, but you were essentially a different chef at that point. After those 6 months of training and learning from the people that were doing things the way you really needed to do them. You wanted to do them that way, but you also needed to do them that way given your circumstances and your market, right?
Right.
You were a different person too. So you give the whole front side a rebrand, and now you're high end. And it worked?
It did work. I basically every time that I would learn something new, I wouldn't say, I'm going to try this or I hope this works. I would say, this is how I do it now.
Yeah.
And so when I turned off my lights one night and turned them back on the next day as a different company. And that was essentially it. It was a different mindset. It wasn't anything else. I just repositioned my company using the terminology and using the new education and the new information that I had. And the very same clients that I was struggling with, when they would call in and I would tell them what I'm doing now and how excited I am that my company now focuses on creating portrait art galleries for homes.
Even that right there. You say those words and I'm like, that's going to cost a lot of money.
Right. And they're thinking, wow, good for you. You know, that's cool. You know, you deserve that.
Yes.
The feedback that I got was a lot different than I expected. I thought that I would lose my clients.
And you didn't?
I didn't. I lost some along the way, as we always do.
Sure.
But basically, I had never offered them that service before.
Mm-hmm.
I had offered them packages and the way that things were always done, but I never offered to decorate their homes. I never offered to send a designer out.
You never presented it that way.
Yeah, it was never an option.
Right.
And it was a new way of doing business and a new thought process.
So some of them were both capable of kind of staying with you, so to speak, in this new brand, this high-end brand that you were created. They were capable. But the bigger piece I'm picking up maybe is that you were then giving them something that they really wanted. Whereas before, it's not like you weren't giving them something they didn't want, but this is almost something they were longing for that they maybe didn't even realize.
Well, I have people ask me a lot of times when I'm working with new studios, and they say, where do you find all these wealthy clients at?
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
And my answer is kind of a canned answer at this point because I say it so much. But best way I can describe it is if you go into Walmart with $300 and you spend it, Walmart's happy with you, corporate. That's a good Walmart day.
Right.
But if you, the very same person, walk into a furniture store with $300, what are you going to get?
Right. Some pillows.
Right. You're not even going to get the furniture.
Right. You can't even get what they want you to buy.
Right. So what I've done is reposition my company from that Walmart type brand of the low budget stuff to the furniture company.
Right.
And the way I view it is my competition isn't the photographers all around me. It's the wall designers, the interior designers, the furniture companies, because what I do now, my intention is to decorate homes and focus just on that furniture market. Your
products are a part of their decor.
That's correct.
And a very personalized part of at that.
Right.
And I love the fact that you did this. I love the fact that it worked so well, because I think one of the biggest hurdles that people have, and you kind of mentioned this, is that they're going to lose clients. If I can't do that because then no one will come to me anymore. But what you're saying is a lot of people that were coming to you were capable of doing this as well, but but the mindset changed, and so instead of a Walmart, you're this furniture store, right? And they're still able to do that, right?
Right. Well, and it really helps for me and the people that I work with to think about furniture, like really focusing on furniture.
You really do,
because everybody has furniture. Nobody likes to buy it because it is expensive.
Everybody has furniture, though.
Even cheap furniture is expensive.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But, you know, it's a given, too.
Mm-hmm.
You get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, okay, that's not cheap. Now, everybody has furniture, right? So they all have the ability to spend that kind of money.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of positioning yourself there.
So you changed your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that you presented things a certain way to start to change your clients' mindsets. But what were the things that you really put into practice over time, especially to kind of continue that narrative, so to speak, in your business? Like, what sort of things do you do, maybe even now, to really sustain that from a business standpoint? Maybe it's wording, maybe it's the brand, of course, but
it is. It's wording is a large part of it.
mm-hmm.
There's three main characters in my studio. There's the designer and the artist and not a character, but furniture. Those three are the main pieces.
They're like the pillars of your business,
right,
so to speak.
And it's important to keep the narrative going. Like when people ask me what I do, let's just say we're at a pub and someone asks you what you do and you say, I'm a photographer. What's their response going to be?
Well, they're generally not all that impressed.
Right. Or they may say,
what?
So am I, or I know someone.
Right. There's that too,
right.
because it's right.
But if you say I'm a portrait artist,
right,
just a different word, just a different title.
Yes.
Now you got their attention. Oh, what's that? Or
right. Because the term photographer is a fairly generic term.
It is. The magic has been taken away from photography.
Right.
And as far as owning the artist title, photography is under art in the bookstore. It is an art.
Yeah.
The important reason to do that is artists are rare.
Yeah.
If you think about commissioning someone to create a portrait for you, you're thinking it's going to cost a lot of money.
Right.
But if you talk about hiring a photographer,
just to get your pictures taken, so to speak.
But it's the exact same thing. It's just a difference in positioning.
How much did you, during that time then, given all of this, work on your skills and, what the actual end product was? Were you really essentially selling the same thing one month as opposed to the next month after you turn those lights on and off, or off and on as well? Or did your skill level also rise along with the product that you were offering, as well as how you were presenting it?
That's a good question. What changed the most was learning how to present it, learning what to say.
Right.
What do you say from the time you get them on the phone?
Right.
What is the process?
Right.
And changing the way they view it, but first changing the way that I view it.
Right.
The art didn't change a whole lot right away. I was already doing a lot of digital work to images.
Right. You were already at a level where it was a quality product.
Right. But I've seen some of the people that I studied, and none of them that I mentioned because I don't want to say that, but you look at their work and you see that they're making just thousands of dollars, and the work isn't, what you would consider wow. Right.
Right.
But also, I've seen incredible artists in this industry that are struggling.
Yes.
Way better. I'll never be that good, but they're really struggling.
Right.
And then I've seen incredible salespeople, and their work is
fine.
Yeah. Right. But they're killing it, and they have a really nice life off of it. So I don't think it's the actual product so much. I think it's recognizing the value of what it is that we do.
Right.
And understanding how to position that value. It is a very valuable thing. Like, there's still one of the top answers to if your house is burning down, what are you going to grab?
Yeah.
And it's pretty important to realize that they're saying every other possession I've accumulated over my entire life is it can burn, but not what you offer.
Yeah, it's expendable, but what you offer me is not.
Right.
Right.
And so I think a lot of it is really, it's all between our ears, And even now, like, I do well with this, but there's no limits other than what I believe in.
What does your business look like today? Because we're talking about something that's 15 years past now, essentially.
Yeah,
those days.
I'm going on my 19th year of this full time, and now what's important to me the most is this idea of life balance, and I'm still working through that. But I do the same amount of business, but I've gotten a lot more efficient at it, and I've trained my clients that the actual portrait sessions are only about a week a month.
Okay.
If that much.
Right.
And it's the same amount. I just used to be available all the time.
Right.
But now I only have these little pockets of time. And then I take the rest of the time and go do other things. You know.
Yeah. What other things do you do?
I do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do some coaching, working with other studios because I love that. But, I love what I do. But now that I've learned to use my laptop instead of it being chained to a desktop. And then also
it's a necessary tool for you.
Yeah. And so I can work from anywhere. So why not work from somewhere beautiful?
Right.
And also outsourcing.
Right. You do a lot more of that now than ever before. Right. Yeah. So other people are doing kind of some of the busy work or right. What's next? Like how do you see this evolving further? Next
for me is painting is my top shelf right now. And you really need to keep raising your top shelf to make more money for less time.
I understand. Sure.
And so for me, I need to focus in more on the paintings. And I want to become a painting studio that also does portraits versus a portrait studio that offers paintings.
Okay.
And that will be my next chapter, or what I'm trying to go toward, is to really do that. I've been studying Mary Fitz and Jamie. Those guys have gone that route more, and some other folks, and I'm trying to learn that. So that's what I'm working on now.
Greg Daniel does that too.
Yeah.
And so that's your top tier. So when you have a top tier, I've heard a few different ways of doing this. When you have a top tier, you expect people to purchase that top tier. Is that right? And everything else is kind of an add-on or an afterthought in a relative sense to the top tier item, to the big product, right?
Right. Usually you have one it's priced up to where you think no one will purchase it.
Right.
And it'll make everything else look,
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
And then, but when people start purchasing that, you need to change.
You need a new top tier.
You need a new top tier, right. For me, I was selling a lot of wall portraits, and I still do a ton of wall portraits, and only a few paintings. But now that I'm getting more and more paintings, I need to make that my normal. You know what I mean? So that make that top shelf your normal product as you keep raising, keep climbing the ladder.
What do you say to the person that's hearing this that maybe isn't quite at the point that you are at, but maybe sees that coming or feels like it could happen, and they're reluctant to hit that light switch that you did?
I get it. I really do. It's scary. A lot of times when I'm working with the studio and they're trying to figure out how to go this route, sometimes we have to hold on to what they're doing and put this in place almost as a separate company, like you're adding a furniture company to your business.
Okay.
But it really is just a safety net for their comfort level.
Yeah.
Because if they really embraced it and took off with it, it would just happen faster versus the being careful with it. But I understand that too. Well,
yeah, and again, you're at a point where the desperation piece was there, and so you didn't really have much of a choice.
That's right.
And so to some degree, having that choice or having a little bit of wiggle room can work against you, right? Because if you're terrified, because it is terrifying, that's going to hold you back and maybe stop you from taking the risks that you need to take to actually make it happen. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And change is hard. Change is hard for everybody.
Yes. Amen.
It is scary.
We learned about that last night.
Right. And for artists, we're emotionally driven.
Yeah.
And so what's scarier to a logical person is a lot more scary to artists, right?
Yes.
We don't only worry about losing our clients, we worry that people aren't going to like us anymore.
There you go.
Really? And our clients are not clients, they're friends.
Yeah.
We're very personal.
Right.
There's not much of a separation between business and personal. So I get that it's scary. One thing that we try to always do when working together, say another studio, is find the things that they're already doing that they don't even realize.
Oh.
And then really having them understand what they're doing, because they do this stuff all the time and they know what to do mostly.
Right.
It's just a matter of really focusing in on it and put the attention in the right place,
And it's already there.
It's already there.
That has to be, I would think that would be a wonderful experience for someone to have you come in and help them realize that here's something that you're already doing that has so much potential. And maybe they need to hone it a little bit, or maybe they need to tweak it a little bit, or maybe they need, like what you did, and is just word it differently, right? To make it that much more powerful and that much more effective in their clients' eyes, right?
Right. Yeah, and that is it. The bulk of what we do is helping. I help to understand what you already do, and try to get you out of the way of that, and get you fired up and excited about it, and understand how to present it in a way.
Well, in all honesty, it's that much more exciting when you can continue to do some of the same things in some of the same ways, but present it in a way that then you're that much more fairly compensated for, really, right? You're essentially helping people realize that how underpriced that they are, in a sense.
And that's usually why I'm called in. They are at the point in their career where they're ready to move forward. They usually know what to do, or they have ideas of what to do. Their competition is sneaking up on them, and they're getting really stressed out and worried that they're going to fall off. A lot of times they're in quite a bit of danger. And it's because they look too much like. And sometimes it's just a matter of redefining what you do and presenting it the right way to separate you from the competition. But most often than not, it's just building the confidence, because once a person has confidence and they're excited, there's no stopping them.
Where do people go to find you and your resources? Like if I hear this and I want to bring you in, where do I go to find how to do that?
I pretty much live on Facebook.
You're a Facebook guy.
Yeah, I'm a Facebook guy, and that's where most of my clients interact with me, and most anyone that's looking for me, they can find me there.
So just search Kevin Jordan Photography
Kevin Jordan on Facebook is a good spot. Kevin Jordan JPD on Instagram. I'm trying to get better at Instagram. I feel like an old guy there.
I do too.
I don't know.
I get it. Well, hey, thanks for joining me for this. This was really helpful. It was actually fun to also hear more of your story. I've known you for a long time, but there's always little bits and pieces that we learn about each other when we talk about it more,
Yeah, man. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.